Hey, it is Gary Carpenter with Master Real Estate Academy. And today I want to talk about turning leads into listing appointments. Okay. Now these are typically, I'm going to really dive into seller leads. I don't really deal with a lot of with buyer leads, but I know that there's a lot of you out there that are on teams or that are team leads or whatever that buy, leads from Zillow, Realtor.com and pay-per-click and that type of stuff. And the number one question that I would ask every one of those leads, or at least figure this into your dialogue, whether you're emailing them information back or texting or talking with them, I would ask them this question: do you currently own your home, or are you renting? Right? This is going to determine whether or not this is a listing lead or if this is a buyer lead. I mean, if they've got a house to sell, typically, for the most part, they have with something that's called frozen equity, right? So meaning that they need the equity from that house to purchase the next one. So my suggestion is always ask that question whenever you're dealing with what they think that they are a buyer's lead, because they're coming to you in that fashion from, some paid site or something like that. So, but I'm going to specifically talk about referral leads that are referred to you indirectly from your database that want to sell a home. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're always going to find out what's missing. Okay, if it's a buyer lead, let's just kind of keep on the theme here. I'll talk buyer lead, I'll talk seller lead. But if it's a buyer lead, typically the number one thing that any buyer lead is ever going to need is to be pre-qualified with a lender, right? You need to, and the way that I would structure that question, which I learned this many, many years ago, is rather than asking them, have you been pre-qualified, right? Because that's kind of judgmental, right? Are you qualified to buy a house? Are you not qualified to buy a house? I would ask them, do you currently know what your buying power is in today's market, right? Because today's market has changed. Interest rates have gone down, right? So their buying power is probably a little bit higher. Okay. Although prices of houses are going higher. So the quality home that they're going to get, anyhow, that's a whole different story in itself. So, and when you're dealing with a direct lead that comes to you from somebody within your database that is a seller, typically the number one thing that is missing, okay, is a CMA, right? Current market analysis. They want to know what the value of their home is, right? If it's a FSBO, the number one thing that they don't want to do is hire a real estate agent, right? Why? Because they don't want to pay a commission, right? So what's an expired? An expired typically is they're very upset because their house hasn't sold in the 90 or 120 or 180 days that they were on the market. Because in my opinion, they probably hired an agent that wasn't necessarily honest with them or wasn't upfront and didn't lead the transaction. They let them lead the transaction, and typically, well, that's an expired. So expireds, there's a lot more detail with those. So the way that we find out what's missing is we use what's called the lead to appointment converter, right? So step number one is you're going to find out what's missing. Okay. And you're going to do that through asking questions. Okay. Rapport building questions, information building questions. Okay. And then step number two is that once you find out what's missing, right, we're going to direct them. I never ask a question that I typically don't know the answer to, although there's going to be a lot of questions that are going to be asked that you maybe don't know the answers to. There's a lot of times when you're talking with somebody, you could say hello, right? And they're going to give you all the answers. And there are personalities where you're going to have to ask the questions a couple times in order to get the answer from them. And then once you kind of go through this, and again, this is a process. So my suggestion, I was taught a long time ago, let the process either get you the appointment or lose the appointment for you, but follow the process. Okay. You're the leader in this. And that's what people want to hire, is they want to hire somebody that's going to lead them, not that they have to direct. Okay. And then step number three is that hopefully when you introduce what's missing, you ask them, would that be of value to them? They say yes. Then you're going to propose a get together. You're going to use alternative of choice close. You're going to have your schedule next to you because you have your on-call time scheduled, right? On-call time is when you're specifically going to go on listing appointments. You have that. Your family knows, the people that are most important in your life know when your on-call time is happening. And when you're in your lead gen time, this is where you're going to have your schedule, and you're going to give them an alternative of choice. And we'll talk about that here in more detail in just a second. And then step number four is handle hesitation, right? Because there's going to be some times where they're going to hesitate on the phone, right? Again, now this is all on the phone, okay? Although you can use this face-to-face, but for the most part, this is used on the phone, is you're going to want to handle the hesitation, okay? And so I'm going to give you just a simple step-by-step in the hesitation handler on that. So let's go ahead and jump into this. So number one is when you're finding out what's missing, you're just basically asking a series of questions, right? So it may start off, hi, this is Gary Carpenter. I'm with, MREA Real Estate Company, and I was just reaching out to you. John Smith suggested that I give you a call. He said that you guys were thinking about moving. Just wanted to make sure that that was still happening. Right. And then you may have some small talk. How are you doing? Talking about the relationship on how you both know John Smith, whatever the case may be. But at some point, within that conversation, you're going to start jumping in and you're going to need information so that you can go back and do a ballpark market analysis. Right. And that's going to be during, you're going to want to make the appointment gettable. Right. So we're going to talk about the one-stop gettable get together. Okay, so you're asking a series of questions, right? So where are you guys moving to? So what even provoked the move? Why are you guys moving in the first place? Oh, okay, so a job. You're going to get a job transfer, or you want to move up, or whatever. But you're going to go through and you're going to ask a series of questions. Now, most of you already do this, but you just didn't know you had a system, right? So where are you moving to? When do you have to be there? Have you found a house yet? Because all of a sudden now, the nice thing about getting a listing lead is that you potentially could have a buyer lead, right? So you could get two deals out of one. And then what type of home are you looking for? And you're going to talk around that. And the thing that I always coach on this is, you're going to want to add in the and the ooh and the wow. And oh, that's cool, because that's building rapport over the phone, okay? And this is the way we do this, okay, is we build rapport over the phone. And then you want to ask them. I would always ask two other questions that aren't on here. One is, do you have any other real estate agents that you're going to be talking to? Because you want to know that, right? You want to know that before you show up, okay? Because that could be an objection when you get at the house, but I'd rather know that before I'm there. And then the other one is, have you guys considered at all about trying to sell this on your own? I don't advocate that, but I just want to know in advance before I come over whether or not you guys were thinking about trying to sell on your home. And if they do say, yeah, we're considering it, then again, now you know that, so you can handle that when you go over to the house, okay? And then the last question always is, have you had a current market analysis? Or I like to ask it, have you had a highest price analysis on your home? They're either going to say yes or they're going to say no. If they say yes, then that's great. Then you jump on in and give them a second opinion. But for the most part, they're going to say no. Okay, they're going to say no to this question. And now you know what you have. Okay, so then you're going to go to the next step. Okay, which is you're going to introduce what's missing, which is the highest price analysis, right? So, are you familiar with? So, are you familiar with a highest price analysis? They're going to say no. Okay. Now, if you say current market analysis and they've sold a house or two, or they've interviewed other real estate agents, they're going to say, yeah, they know what that is. But most people don't know what a highest price analysis is, which I'll discuss what that is here in just a second. So are you familiar with a highest price analysis? They're going to say no. Then you're going to describe it. Well, what that is, and you're just going to describe a CMA. So what that is it's an aerial view look of what the market looks like in a snapshot for you, which basically we're going to look at all the houses that are currently on the market, all the houses that are pending, and then all the homes that are sold possibly within the last 6 months, 3 to 6 months, so that we don't have to guess at your price and possibly underprice your home, and that you could lose a small fortune. Let me ask you this. Would something like that be a value? So then you're going to close. That's the close. Would something like that be a value? Well, yes, I want to know what the value of my home is. And yes, I don't want to underprice my house, right? We never really talk about overpricing. I always talk about underpricing, because that's a concept where they could potentially be losing money. So, and they never even thought about that. Okay, so especially in the market that you're currently watching this video, which is, February of 2021, where houses are, selling for $20,000, $30,000 more than what they're actually listed for, and blah, blah, blah. But that market is going to change. At some point, it will change. Okay, so anyhow, that is how you introduce what is missing. So let's just cover a little bit more on that. So highest price analysis is a current market analysis plus a real estate timing analysis, which I cover in this video, but I will cover what a highest price analysis is. Okay, so this is kind of just a definition of introducing the highest price analysis. It's just, it's the same thing of what I just described, but just in maybe a little bit more detail. And that you're at the end of the deal, you're closing because you want to make sure that that's something that's going to be of value to them. They say yes to that, then you're going to propose a get together, which is step number 3, right? So you're going to find out what's missing, you're going to introduce what's missing, and then once you find that that's a value to them, then you're going to propose a get together. And you're just really going to do this conversationally, okay? And just again, it's just a set of words, right? Why don't I do this? I don't mind. Why don't I find a time when I can stop by your house and I'll take a look at it, walk through it, and I can show you the highest price analysis, go through that with you so that you understand that. And then we'll kind of look and see what your home is worth. And while I'm there, if you're okay with it, I would love for you to show me your house like you would a buyer. And then maybe I can show you some things, whether or not you decide to hire me or not. I could show you some things that might make your home a little bit more sellable. Would something like that be a value? It would. Okay, that's great. Let me ask you this. So I'm looking at my schedule right now. And are you more of a daytime? Could you meet during the day, like mid-afternoon, or would you like to do more right after dinner hour? And so they say, you know what, we would love, again, that's alternative of choice. Well, I'd love to be able to meet in the afternoon. Okay, so the times that I have available so far, actually it's let's say it's Saturday. It's Saturday right now. So I do have an appointment available today at 2 o'clock if you would like to get together. Or if that's too soon, I have Monday at 2 o'clock, or I have Wednesday at noon. Which one would work best for you? So I just given them 3 options, okay? And so they're going to take on that option and they say, okay, so we could meet we can meet later today at 2 o'clock, okay? So one question that I'm going to ask, because I'm going to go and I want to make this a gettable get together, I'm going to ask if all parties are going to be available. So would your wife, if I'm talking to Mr. Seller, I'm going to ask if Mrs. Seller is going to be there. If he tells me that Mrs. Seller can't be there, and don't worry about it because he makes all the decisions, I'm going to say, well, you know what? I completely understand that because I make all the decisions in my, I've been married for 28 years, but at the same time, when it comes to selling a home, it's good for both decision makers to be there, even if you are the one that's going to make the decision. So let's go ahead and just look at a different time that would work for Mrs. Seller to be there. So I would put, again, I'm just asking to direct that. Now, here's the thing I want you to know. You can still go and there's only one spouse there, but just know it's not a gettable appointment, meaning you're not going to list the house that day, okay? Because in that situation, if you don't have both spouses there, there's no way he's going to be signing any paperwork without her. And plus, you're going to need her signatures anyway, okay? And the other thing you have to understand, too, is that there's 2 types of appointments, right? There's the one type of appointment where you just meet somebody and you go over to the house and you're kind of just consulting, right? They're getting to know you. You're getting to know them. You're going to talk about the house. They want to know some things, maybe what they need to do to get the house ready because they're really not ready to throw the house. That's a consult appointment. And then there's going to be a point to where they're ready to list the home. Okay. They may be interviewing other people at that point, even after they talk to you on the consult appointment, that they're going to interview other agents. So, but always be prepared. Okay. Always be ready for the listing because you just never know. Right. All right. So the next thing on this is they may hesitate, right? They could hesitate on this, but if they say yes, come on over. Okay. Which is the easy one. Then you're going to prepare for the one-stop listing appointment. Okay. And so essentially what you're doing is on the top box, you're the lead to appointment converter, which is the steps that we just went through. And then there's those little lines there. Are they kind of going like this? And there's a dialogue for right there. It's Mr. Seller, before I let you go, meaning you're talking to them on the phone. I have some homework that I need to do. Can I ask you a couple additional questions so that way I can better prepare for our appointment? They're going to say yes, absolutely. I've never had anybody say no to this. And then you're going to ask a series of questions about the house, about the kitchens, about the bathrooms, about the condition, about the roof, about the lot, about the, the furnace, the air conditioner, all of that type of stuff. Did they paint the house? How's the flooring? Enough information so that you can go in and do a ballpark market analysis, right? You need enough information. But as you're asking these questions, then you're going to make sure that all the ingredients are in place, right? So the ingredients to making this a one-stop appointment is, one is the decision makers are there, which we just talked about. Number two is that you have enough time. Okay, so I'm going to be there at 2 o'clock this afternoon. So I've got an appointment right before that, Mr. Seller, and it may run a little bit long. First-time home buyers, I don't necessarily want to rush them. Are you going to be available from 2 to 4? No, we're not going to be. I'm only going to be from 2 to 2:30. There's no way you're going to be able to get done what you need to get done from 2 to 2:30. So you're going to try to push the appointment to a different time where you can get the time. Right? But if they say that they're available, yeah, we'll be home between 2 and 4. What time are you going to show up? Right? You're going to show up at 2 o'clock. Okay. Not 1:58. Okay. Because they're still getting the house ready. You're going to show up at 2 o'clock. You're not going to show up at 2:05 because we don't show up late. We show up on time. Okay. And so, but you want to make sure that you have enough time to be able to do everything that you need to do. If you're going to go in and you're going to list the house, do all the paperwork, build the rapport, measure the house up, get everything done. It's going to take a minimum of an hour and a half, if not 2 hours. Okay. And then the next ingredient is ballpark market analysis, right? We're not going to do an exact market analysis, right? We're not going to give them a price. You always want to go in and give them a range, right? The low end of every neighborhood has a low and every neighborhood has a high. So you're going to try to go in there. Now, which one are they going to usually want to try to pick? They're going to try to pick the high. But what your job is when you go over to the house is to consult them on how condition wise and what they're going to need to do to get to that high comp price. Okay. Whether it's updating, painting, new flooring, whatever it is. Okay. So you got to justify those prices. Okay. And then you want to know their price. This is not a major deal, but it is a good thing to know if they're thinking 250 and then you go in and do your ballpark market analysis and you're 200, you're $50,000 difference. That's always a good thing to know. Okay. So just kind of get their price. A lot of times sometimes people will say, well, I really don't know. I've been in the house for 30 years. We really don't have a clue. We have a couple other houses in the neighborhood. So some people, just being honest, don't know what the price of their home is. Okay. And then you want to know their motivation, right? What's driving them to put their house on the market? Is it a job transfer? Is it a move up? Is it actually they're downsizing? What is it? That's really, because that motivation is the thing that they're going to do what they need to do in order to get the house sold. And then you always want to make sure you send a pre-listing packet. In another video, I'll cover what we do with a pre-listing packet for a buyer and a pre-listing packet for a seller. If you're in my production program right now, I probably have uploaded these already in on the Facebook private group page. And then be prepared, right? Be prepared how, right? Dress right. Look right, smell right. Don't smell too right. You don't want them going, what is that, right? And then you want to take the right stuff, which is basically everything on a listing appointment. And then you want to have the right attitude, right? You don't want to go over there hoping, praying that you're going to get the listing. You're going to go over there that if you want it, you're going to do them a favor and you're going to take it. Okay. So you just want to know those things. So those are the ingredients. And if you have any questions on anything that I'm covering here today, please feel free to, put your comments down below, ask your questions below, but also too, I'm always available for a quick phone call if you have any questions. Now, if they say no, right, and they hesitate, right, you could say, yeah, sure. No, you don't want to say that, right? You want to be a little bit more confident, and you want to say something like, with the hesitation handler, like, well, you probably have a good reason for wanting to wait or talk to your wife before we get together. Do you mind if I ask what it is? If you ask that question, if you know, back in the day, I used to say, you know, close on them 3 times, 1, 2, 3. Well, for the most part, any student that I've ever had, they have a hard time closing once. And I think that if you close once, most people are honest, right? And most people are going to give you what's on their mind. Okay. And if they're lying to you, I mean, there's no point in even continuing this, right? But you probably have a good reason for feeling that way. Do you mind if I ask what it is? And then, wait, is that it? Yeah, that's all you need to do. So rule of thumb, right, is if you want somebody to want something, talk benefits, right? Talk about what you're going to be able to do for them, what they're going to be able to get from you. If you want them to act and act now, show them what they're going to lose. Like they could be losing a small fortune. They could be losing $10,000 to $15,000, right? So they could be a loss of time, not be able to get someplace as fast as they thought they were going to do. So that's the whole thing that you're trying to cover on this, right? So that is it for the listing. Turning a listing lead into an appointment. So if you have any questions or anything, I appreciate you joining me. Again, I do have a real estate coaching business. So if you are thinking at all about wanting a real estate coach, please feel free to direct message me, however you're seeing this video on this platform. And we'll talk to you soon. Have a great one.